You know, if there's one machine that can really make you feel like you've gone back in time, it's gotta be a steam locomotive. The sight of it, the sound it makes, even the smell, all those things can take you back to another era. Of course, many people have ridden behind them or been next to the tracks as they rolled by, but what's it like in the cab, sitting up high with a huge boiler in front of you? Well, today, we're gonna find out. We're at the Tennessee Valley Railroad Museum in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and we'll be riding on Southern Railway number 4501. She was built in 1911 by Baldwin Locomotive Works and originally hauled freight for the Southern and later coal for the Kentucky and Tennessee Railway. But these days, the locomotive pulls passenger excursion trains. I've actually recorded 4501 a few times, pulling the Somerville Steam Special. But the train we're pulling today is making the short 6-mile round trip from the Grand Junction Depot to the museum's shops in East Chattanooga. Alright, that's enough background info for now. It's time to go. Now, before we really get going, the train has to be turned around. To do this, they use a Y. It's kind of like a 3-point turn for a train. At the controls today is the engineer, Andrew, and his wife, Ricky, is the fireman. After getting the train pointed in the right direction, we're now headed west. The first landmark on our trip is the bridge over the South Chickamauga Creek. After that, things were about to get dark. All you can see is the glow of the firebox and the illuminated gauges as we pass through Whiteside Tunnel, also known as the Missionary Ridge Tunnel. It's 981 feet long and dates back to before the Civil War. It was completed in 1858. Several minutes later, we're approaching the shops at East Chattanooga. There's Southern Railway number 630. I have fond memories watching that engine in Atlanta during Norfolk Southern's 21st Century Steam program. At this point, it was time to spin 4501 around at the turntable here. So now, we've got an opportunity to take a look at what it takes to operate a machine like this. There's no doubt, steam locomotives require more knowledge and skill to operate than their more modern diesel counterparts. There are a lot of controls in here, but let's start by taking a look at the engineer's side of the cab. Some have described steam locomotives as living, breathing machines, so keep in mind, it's a little bit loud in here.
This is the throttle, which actually opens up to let steam through cylinders. This is the power reverse. Pushes forward or reverse. This is the brake, the train brake, locomotive brake. This is the cylinder cock. You open it up to let steam out of and water out of the cylinder. What's the lever?
In front of him, the engineer also has air brake gauges and a speedometer. This gauge is in the middle of the cab. It's double-sided and can be seen by both crew members. It displays steam pressure. Both sides of the cab also have water sight glasses that allow the crew to monitor the amount of water in the boiler. Moving on to the left-hand side of the cab, this is where the fireman sits. Here, they have the controls to burn coal, heat water, and make steam. And by the way, the tender back here can carry 13,000 gallons of water and 16 tons of coal. Now, you've probably seen in movies or TV shows someone constantly having to shovel coal into the firebox. Well, that's called hand firing, but 4501 actually has something called a mechanical stoker. It's an auger-like system that runs from the tender into the firebox. Steam jets then shoot the coal out into the fire so it doesn't all accumulate in one place. Look closely and you can see coal going through the stoker here. But the firemen will still grab a shovel from time to time to address dark or dead spots that they see in the firebox. Now, not every component on 4501 is original. It was slightly modernized with a feed water heater from a Chinese locomotive, and that mechanical stoker I mentioned earlier is from a Canadian National engine. These improvements were made during 4501's restoration, which was completed in 2014. Anyway, that's just a taste of what it takes to run a 111-year-old locomotive in the 21st century. But our trip is not over yet. 4501 has been turned around, and we've coupled it back onto the train. Now, it's time to head back to the Grand Junction Depot. As we start to move, you may be wondering what that cable hitting the ceiling is for. That's actually the cord for the bell. It's operated pneumatically. Now, the line we're on today has an interesting history. It was once part of the Southern Railway, and before that, it was operated by the East Tennessee, Virginia, and Georgia Railway. The Missionary Ridge Tunnel is probably the best part of this trip, but running through any tunnel in a steam locomotive can be, well, unpleasant. You're stuck behind a smokestack and everything that's coming out of it. You can see the crew open their cab doors back up once we're out of the tunnel. Not far from the tunnel, the tracks pass over CSX rails. And that warning from the whistle means we're about to cross the bridge over the South Chickamauga Creek one more time. It also means our cab ride is coming to an end. Folks are already lined up on the platform, watching the train pull in. It was now time for a new group of passengers to experience 4501 and the Missionary Ridge Local. The people at the Tennessee Valley Railroad Museum do a great job of keeping this old equipment running and making sure the experiences you have here are unforgettable. You know, 4501 has made appearances in a few of my videos, but it's also been in some much bigger productions. It had a notable role in the 1999 movie October Sky. Of course, another job it had over the years was pulling excursion trains for the Southern Railway and later Norfolk Southern. Its paint scheme was a little different back then, but I'm sure it was still a thrill to watch it pass by. Anyway, that's it for this video. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.